Hello guys, we're going to talk about intensive and extensive properties. So we did physical and chemical. Now we can also categorize them as intensive and extensive. So let's talk about what that means first.
Sure thing. Let's clear everything out. So let's do extensive over here, and we'll do intensive over on the right.
Okay, great. So what we're talking about is, does the property change when the amount of the substance changes?
Okay.
So if it doesn't change, it's independent of the amount. That's the intensive properties. So it means I can cut my sample in half and the property would stay exactly the same.
So intensive doesn't change with amount.
Right.
And then extensive changes, the property that is changes
Right.
with amount.
Exactly.
So if I have more or less, the extensive property will change. If I have more or less, the intensive is independent of all that.
Exactly.
It doesn't change.
So the extensive are usually going to be ones you measure.
Okay, so let's list a few underneath here, but let's look at some real world examples. So what do you have first here?
So let's look at the water first. So why don't you hold the bowl?
Okay.
I'll hold
so I have a bowl of water.
And I have a smaller amount of water also in a bowl.
Okay.
So we have two different amounts. Okay, what's the same? Is it both clear? So you could say the color is the same.
Yeah, color's the same.
So that'd be intensive.
So that'd be intensive. I'd say, can I go with what's different? Because that's easy.
Yeah, let's do what's different.
So what's different? The volume of this water is different from the volume of that water.
Right. So if I change the amount, the volume would be different. The mass would be different.
Okay. Mass. Can I write some of these down real quick?
Yeah, let's write them.
Okay. So with the different amounts, mass and volume are different. They change. We said the color didn't change.
Right. And another one we should talk about is density.
Density.
So the density of water is 1 gram per milliliter. Okay. It's a measure of mass and volume.
Okay.
And this much and this much, it doesn't matter that I have a smaller amount. The density is the same. So density is always intensive.
Okay, so density does not change with the amount, so therefore density is intensive. Thirsty. So, excuse me. Sorry.
So the vitamin water is pink.
The
color didn't change.
I drank a lot of it actually, and as you can see, the color did not change. Wait. If I drink a little bit more.
So the color didn't change.
Color still didn't change.
The density wouldn't have changed.
Density didn't change, but what did change?
Mass.
The mass of it and the volume certainly went from here to here.
Yep.
So, okay, intensive versus extensive. I'm starting to get it.
So now let's look at paper, which is a solid, right? We've looked at liquids, well, let's look at a solid. So I have length, right? Length is of the paper.
Right.
And I have a mass of this paper. Color is white. Now if I tear the paper in half, I've changed the amount.
Oh yeah, you've changed. Okay, when it was together, it had a certain length, right? But now you've torn it in half, and now we have a different length.
Right, length changed.
Length
so that
changed.
would be extensive.
Okay.
The mass changed. We've already talked about mass.
The mass change, yeah, for sure.
Color's the same.
Color's same. Density's the same. Okay, so what about some other things? So are each of these pieces of paper? I'm going to tear this in half again. So these two pieces of paper, let's talk about like a chemical property like flammability.
Okay.
Is this piece of paper just as flammable as this piece of paper?
Yes.
Okay. Wait, I'm going to try to trick you up here. Is this piece of paper just as flammable as this piece of paper?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because all we're looking at is it flammable or is it not flammable? Not the degree that it's flammable.
So it doesn't matter what size of paper I have, it's flammable. So something like flammability
And actually, that's a good point. So all chemical properties are intensive because we're just saying, is it reactive or is it not reactive? Is it corrosive? Is it not corrosive?
Okay, so that's actually a pretty good way to remember a lot of this. So every single chemical property there is intensive.
Right. So it's either is it
that's
or
nice.
isn't it. Doesn't change with the amount.
But as you notice, there are some physical properties that are also intensive.
Yep.
But all chemicals are intensive. That was a really good lesson, and we didn't have to set anything on fire.